Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Detour Live. And I'm your host, Dan Jones. And as we always say at the top of the show, if you like the show, make sure you like, share, subscribe, youtube.com/the Detour Podcast, because all of the subscriptions, they do count. And every time we do go live, you get a notification. So you'll never miss a show. And I'm joined, as always, by four-time national road champ who could have been one of Australia's greatest ever cyclists. We're talking Cadel Evans. We're talking Stuart O'Grady, Robbie McEwen, all the greats, if he only applied himself. That is, of course, Johnny Turow.
That's not exactly true. I would never have been a Cadel. But there you go.
Not a Cadel, but do you ever look back and go, just the wonder, the what ifs, the what ifs. If you were just like,
what's my nickname?
Iffy.
Right, there you go.
If you live like a monk, how much difference do you think it would have made?
I wouldn't have near as much fun.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. You wouldn't be on the show. We would never have met.
I just got to pick you up on one thing. You just started the show by saying, as always, I start the show with Detour. So you've done it once, ever.
That's right.
Always,
right.
as you said.
Yeah, but I always throw those things out there to give you bait. It's all to give you bait, to give you stuff to talk about, mate. It's all intentional. Now, I was like you, John. I was watching the stage, great commentary, Macca, Keenan, and fell asleep with 15K to go. I couldn't even hold on. I just, when your brain goes, come on, mate, just hang in there, Nah, gone. But surely it's not one of the greatest ever stages you've seen in your life.
No. But there haven't been any bad stages in this Vuelta. It was a good stage. Exciting finale. It was actually, they were going really early. I mean, you had the sprint trains on the front, like it was coming to the last kilometre at 5 kilometres to go. So they're all going a little bit early. And then, even though the two fastest sprinters are definitely Philipsen and Jacobsen. Although young Alberto, the Italian Danesi, was in there again. He split them this time. But they both lost their lead-out trains and did their own thing. And it was a pretty frenetic final kilometre. Michael, he got himself in the top 10. I think he'd be 7th. But he actually moved off Luca's wheel, Mezgets, and got onto the back of Jacobsen. And I thought that was a mistake because Mezgets was actually would have got him into a better spot. But look, he's not going to beat those couple of those guys anyway. So, but he's in there having a bash. He's, doing the best he can. But a good solid finale. Now, importantly, Dan,
yes.
Did you get the average speed of that last 10 kilometres for that new competition that Vaughan just threw at us?
Yeah. So that is obviously Apex Customs clothing, cycling clothing. They're given a $150 voucher who got the closest speed for the last 10Ks. Now, Vaughan has come back and said it was 57.2 kilometres, and the winner was Zippy and Free Ranger. So you guys are going to have to email through your details to john@cyclingevents.com.au. Might as well just keep throwing that out there. And we'll get Vaughan to organise that for you. But Sophia has said it was 53.4K an hour. So we're going to have to go with the third umpire. Vaughan is the judge, jury, and executioner for this competition. So we'll have to go with 57.2. Samantha Ince has a question. She says, should BikeExchange have given Rob Stannard a chance to sprint for the line instead of backing Bling?
It was interesting that they had all the boys up there in the mix. They had, Zeitz, who's got covered in bandage from his crash the other day. And big Damien Houston was up there in the last 2Ks to lead them up to the sprint. So they're all having a go. Look, and Stannard's going well, but if they were going to swap over, it'd be Luca who should be given the go. He is just as quick as Bling, no doubt about that. And maybe in a straight out sprint speed-wise, he might even be quicker. So it wouldn't be, I don't know, maybe it's something you do. He looks like he's out of the running really for the points jersey. His biggest challenge coming forward, if there could be more stages that just those big hills near the end, like the stage that he went so well in when Magnus caught one, then he'd be a big chance to win a stage, because that's where he's at his best. There was no other sprinter there. They're the ones who are going to win. But there's no. I've just gone right through all the stages just to have a look at what stage, and there isn't one like that. They're either too hard.
No, I don't know. I spoke to Jules off air an hour ago, and he said that there's a couple of stages that they're pretty keen on next week. Okay. So I've sent the link out to Jules, and hopefully he joins us in the next 5 minutes or so, and we can ask him directly, because we've got a massive show. We've got Grace Brown on later on as well, so we can recap her season. You went back actually over the old episode where we had her on the show. Any nuggets that came out of that?
Well, the one nugget I'm not even going to bring up again, but I did open my big trap and say I would try and get her into Liège-Bastogne-Liège. It never happened, and now she's leaving the team, so it's probably my fault.
It is, 100%. Peter Williams says, no announcement on Bike Exchange website regarding Brown's injury. She's going in for surgery on tomorrow, isn't she?
Well, this week. I know it's this week. Well, we're going to ask her in a few minutes. She's coming on. I asked her to come on in 10 minutes' time, so I thought we'd talk through the stage and that first. So this, I know it's this week that she's getting the op, which is a real shame, because she would have really been a big chance for the World Championships in Flanders. But anyway, we'll talk to her about all of that very shortly.
All right. Well, let's have a look at stage 9, Iffy. That looks pretty gnarly. You've got a Cat 1 in the middle there, Cat 2 early on, Cat 3 with about 30K to go, and then the finale, it finishes up. What do they call it in the Vuelta? ESP. Like, obviously, the Tour's horse category. ESP.
I'll have to get the correct.
España.
That'll do. But it means above categorization. So, so it's a nasty climb, and that's going to be a ripper. Interesting whether the GC boys will take it on, or a break will get up the road. I think a break will get up the road, and then it would be whether they get caught or not. It'll be one of those stages, I reckon. But that's a pretty nasty day. At this stage, Roglic is looking very, very comfortable, but that can change quickly. Everyone's going to say, oh, well, looks like it's Roglic's Vuelta. Hey, we've got some tough stuff to come. This is only the second real mountain stage coming up tonight, and with a lot of them to come up over the next week and a half. So, and it's a very, very tough final week. You only got to crack one day, and there's some strong riders around him. Movistar circling there, waiting. Ineos doing the same. So, yeah, we're in for a great Vuelta.
I remember asking Mitch Docker way back in the early days at Green Edge, because I keep saying it on this show, I don't ride a bike, so I don't understand like the real technical aspects of it. But when it comes to form, and riders talk about being on top form, can you give insight? Like, you can't hold that form for the whole year, and timing your run so that you peak at certain times. What I don't understand is in modern day cycling, riders seem to be able to hold their form or top form for longer. So if a rider performs well at the Tour, they normally go, well, they can't do a good Vuelta because they're good at the Tour. That's not the case anymore. And why is that?
Well, it still is the case a bit. I mean, they can micro-adjust it a bit. I mean, you don't try, like, so if you do a really good Tour, you don't see many guys come out of the Tour, place getters in the Tour de France, doing really well here. You don't see that. You look at Roglic, he was out early in the Tour. Carapaz, he finished third in the Tour. He's struggling a bit here. So it is hard to do, especially Grand Tour after Grand Tour. So riders, they micromanage their form. They have a bit of a break, don't lose a lot of form, and then can come back up. But a Grand Tour does take a lot out of you, a lot more than just hard racing normally does. You know, when you're digging deep into the final week of a Grand Tour, especially when you're a GC rider, when you're going for the GC or got a main GC role to do, doing the final mountain stuff for your team leader. That takes a lot out of you in the final week of a Grand Tour. So only 3 or 4 weeks later to be riding another Grand Tour is pretty demanding.
The Wheel Wizard has come in with some information. He says commissaires reported Senecal last quick step man was fined 500 Swiss francs, docked 30 seconds and 50 points in points classification for diverting in the sprint. The old decoy man. What happened there?
Yeah, well, exactly that. They were forced to hit out a bit too early, and then he moved. It nearly caused a crash. Actually, he was lucky. That's all he got. You can't change your line so quickly. I think we haven't got the vision there because you've been banned from that, haven't you?
Yeah.
But he made the move. Moved across the road and nearly took someone's wheel out from under them. So there was a couple of close ones in that sprint. It went from wide road to narrow road, and there were a couple of really close calls. I see. It's interesting. I don't know how many Israeli guys have finished top 10 in stages in Grand Tours. Not too many, I wouldn't think. But we had what's his name?
The team, or actually from Israel?
Yeah, Israel. The fifth in the stage was Itamar Einhorn from Israeli, who's fifth in the stage. He's right there, close. So
I love the accent you put on when you try and attempt to pronounce someone's name. It's this innocent sort of Einhorn, like don't criticize me.
Einhorn, Einhorn. So the horn part I can get, but it's E-I-N. So Einhorn. There you go. Itamar Einhorn. Is that better?
Perfect. Yeah, sounds good. Peter Volker says, love to join the Detour Desperados now on the Amy Gillett Foundation Grand Fondo, but my son is getting married that weekend next year. Does Iffy talk as much when he's on the bike, or is it business? I reckon you probably talk more when you're on the bike, particularly at the Grand Fondo.
Especially at the pace I go. Hey, listen, I've got to tell all our viewers and listeners I went for a ride this beautiful day here in Geelong today. So I went for a ride down, keeping the 5K limit down to the Belmont Criterion track, did a few laps around there. I'm riding back. I've had a bit of an effort. I'm feeling pretty good about myself. And this guy comes past me on just a straight bar, virtually really a mountain bike, I suppose. No bike, just in long pants, ordinary pedals, goes right by, sort of nods the head, and I'm thinking, bloody e-bikes, it's just not fair. So I lift the pace, get up to him, and I realised it wasn't an e-bike. So that made me feel bloody worse.
Very good.
Anyway.
The Detour Desperados has a good ring to it. I think
I threw that out there, but someone overrode me on that one. But I like it.
Detour Degenerates.
Yeah.
We'll fine tune it. Any other standouts from the stage yesterday, Iffy?
Only the winds did pick up as we thought, and it split. Probably around about 35, 40K to go, and there was some good bike rides in the wrong part. But, yeah, they turned into a bit of a headwind and all came back together. So, in the end, it was just a stock standard sprint stage. But beautiful, beautiful scenery right along that coast there. And then we went inland, did about a 20K loop, and then back down along that beautiful peninsula. So, pretty... amazing stage, actually.
I saw Laura Messenger, who does a lot of work for Eurosport. She's well-known journalist and reporter. She grew up in that area and did a tweet about where they were finishing. A lot of the fish had died, and she said it was because of agricultural choices or whatever. And then Rob Hatch messaged and said he's not commentating, but he would mention that if it was on the stage. And then all these other people chiming in going, no, the fish have died in that ocean there because of the temperature. So it was a global warming thing, caused this sort of back and forth. And then I spoke to you thinking that I'd get a lot of passion and wanting to talk about it. You're like, mate, it's dead fish. I don't care about the Spanish coast. What's going on? What's going on? We're trying to save rhinos here. We care about animals.
I was stirring you up, Daniel. You just came in hook, line, and sinker.
Anyway, they need to get it sorted. Either way, I don't know how they fix it, but there was dead fish at the finish line. So anyway, there's a good little nugget for you. We're really stretching it out today. Nicole Davies goes, any inside info if the Amy ride will still go ahead? Lockdowns don't look like anytime soon. We don't really have any information on that other than
Katie Brown said, that at this stage they're just going ahead with it because it isn't till October. So hopefully, New South Wales might have some trouble getting down here, but come October, you would hope that would be okay. But we'll keep you informed.
And we'll keep it so that even if it doesn't go ahead, you can still get the kit as well. So even if you can't make the ride and you want to support the foundation, you can still get the kit.
Well, we'll have a virtual breakfast and a virtual ride that day.
That's right. We'll find a way. Whatever happens, we will find a way. Now, Grace is about to join us, Iffy, so it's probably time we have a quick break. And we gave Julian Dean a chance, but he's in the bus heading to the start, so they've probably got held up. So,
later.
Yeah. We'll just wing it. We'll just do what we do best on this show. All right, time for a drinks break with a message from our great mates at Bike Exchange and some messages from the Amy Gillett Foundation.
Look at this bike. You think it's just a bike, right? But it's not. It's a bike 374 people are looking at. This guy, this girl, them, all looking at it. People from here, there, and wherever this is. People that are looking for a bike. Or just a piece of it. Amateurs, semi-amateurs, and pro-amateurs. This guy wants this bike, but with this crank and these bars. This could be the perfect match. But not this one. This girl has a bike to sell, and thousands of people might purchase it. Eyes on Bikes help grow small businesses. His, hers, yours, and the latest data and insights help those businesses keep moving. We are the world's #1 bike marketplace, with over 500,000 products and 900 brands, where buyers and sellers are brought together in a place where a bike is never just a bike. Bike Exchange, where the world buys, sells, learns, and rides.
Life is like a two-way street. It's about consideration and mutual respect. Roads are much the same. However you get around, walk, ride or drive, if we share our roads, we can all be safer. The Amy Gillett Foundation is Australia's peak cycling safety charity. Our mission is for safe cycling in Australia. Our vision is for 0 cyclist deaths. Over the last year, we've seen an enormous increase in people taking up cycling, whether it be for recreation, with the family, commuting, or even to start your own cycling career. We need to do more to make it safer for every cyclist. 20 cyclists every day are hospitalised, and 1 cyclist is killed every 10 days on Australian roads. So, the next time you jump on your bike or hop in your car, remember to practice the 4 C's. Be courteous, calm, considerate, and conscientious. Every cyclist's death is preventable, and we all deserve to get home safely. Please donate to help the Amy Gillett Foundation make the roads safer for you and for me.
Thanks again to Bike Exchange and some great messaging there from Amy Gillett Foundation. Now, Iffy, before we get Grace on, where are we at with the silent auction for the Amilla Resorts? That is obviously to raise money for the Kareka Foundation. I think it was at $3,000 yesterday.
Yes, and we just got a bid through only just before we come on air. It's up
Yes.
to $4,000. So, and I think you've got a little bit of information from Jason from the Miller Resort, just adding a little bit of extra to the prize. No?
Well, Jason's obviously always been a massive support, and he said, "Look, if you guys are struggling to get bids, I can keep adding to this." And we're like, "Just hang on, mate. Just hang on." I can tell you now, knowing Jason, that if you purchase this prize through the Amilla Resorts, and if you want to go check them out, go to amilla.com. Unbelievable. You are going to get looked after. And also, John, have you got a script for once for the resort? Because we've been sort of taking the mickey. Are you ready to go?
I am.
Yeah. Go.
Discover a tropical playground of powdered sugar sand, lush jungle, and crystalline waters. Amilla Maldives Luxury Resort reeks of timeless style and endless bliss. Stand by for unexpected treats and indulgences. Delighting and surprising you is their hallmark. Amilla's motto is to exceed your expectations.
Fantastic. Oh, well, if that doesn't get you going, nothing will. And if you want to go check out their website, amilla.com. And as we said, it's a waterfront villa, 2 adults, 2 children, breakfast and dinner, and you're going to get looked after with Jason. It's valued at over 13,500 Aussie dollars, and the bid's at, what was it again, Iffy?
$4,000.
$4,000. So
now, Jason did send through a script, which he really wanted to be read, but I'd already written mine, so I thought, well, bugger you, Jason.
Bugger him.
Read mine. But we'll do a double whammy. Just wait a second, I'll just get it up, and I'll read his wonderful script. Hang on, here we go. And it's located just a 30-minute seaplane flight from Malé. Amilla Maldives Resort and Residence sits over the crystalline waters of the Bar Atoll, UNESCO World Biosphere Reserve. As one of the largest islands in the Maldives, Amilla has ample space for some of the largest luxury over-water beach pool villas and residences in the country. This package includes 5 nights in an over-water villa for up to 2 adults and 2 children, return seaplane transfers, daily breakfast, dinner in any of our 5 restaurants, selected water sports and activities, valued at over Australian dollars, $13,500. There you go.
good stuff. Now, before we bring Grace on, I know she's waiting patiently. Julian Dean is ready, Iffy. So go for it. Julian Dean, Sports Director for Team BikeExchange. Iffy, would you like to ask the first question?
G'day, Jules. How are you, mate?
God, you got me nervous with that introduction, mate. You've been thinking about this first question for a while.
Well, we gave him the first question. It was, how are you, mate? Burn it.
Well, I haven't seen you for that long. I've forgotten. But anyway, that's another story. Now, I noticed in the finale yesterday, all the boys had stepped up. There was even Damien House, and I saw him on the front, moving the Bike Exchange team up to the front of the peloton inside the last 2K. I thought, wow, what's going on here? And Andre Aziz, he was right up there, along with, of course, Luca doing his great job, Rob Stannard. So all the boys were there, and they were really invested in it. But unfortunately, Bling couldn't get into the placings. But I thought he moved over just as Luca was moving to the right. He got onto Jacobson's wheel. I reckon he would have been better sticking with Luca.
Oh, he switched off. You've offended him. Oh,
yeah?
You're back. You're back, Jules?
Yeah. I got it. Yeah. Good. So what are you saying? You should have gone what? Stayed with Luca.
Yeah.
Yeah, Luca was moving down on one side, and he jumped onto Jacobson's wheel. I just thought he maybe should have stayed with Luca.
Yeah, I mean, he got a bit of a quack from the Wanty guy there, which I think upset his rhythm a little bit. But you're right. The boys are doing a fantastic job. They were really good yesterday. I think a couple of it's been a bit of a tough week for them. You know, these sprint finishes like yesterday aren't Michael's bread and butter, but we saw stage 7 there on that uphill finish where Magnus caught one that, Michael's got incredibly good form, and we're trying to just support that in any way we can and give him the confidence we need to in these sprint finishes and on a daily basis, so that when we come into some more stages that suit him better next week, he knows he's got the full support of the team.
Well, I thought that stage we were talking about. I thought that was one of the best rides Bling has ever put up because, okay, it mightn't have been in the results sheet, but he had to make a decision. He knew if he didn't move then, he would have beaten all the others. He would have gotten second. But he didn't want second. They were letting Magnus ride away. He knew he had to go, and he did. And it was just an absolutely brilliant ride. I'm full of admiration for that one.
Yeah, it was definitely a courageous ride. And, we came up a little bit short in our numbers on that climb. If we had one guy there, particularly at the bottom of the climb, I think we could have saved Michael that little bit more. So it was a good ride, but it was a little bit disappointing in that regard. But we had to sort of have a good, honest conversation in the debrief after that stage. And I think we've seen since then the guys are staying committed and really backing Bling and he showed brilliant form there in that climb. And certainly we know that he's doing some of his best numbers that he's ever done.
Well, if you're talking about confidence, I mean, just show me excerpts from Iffy from the detour, because as I said, he was full of praise with that ride the other day. That's one of the greatest things Iffy's seen in a long time. But just on that, we're
probably unlucky though.
You cut me off again.
I thought you'd done.
No, I was going to say, a lot of people have been saying, why don't you mix it up and do the sprint for Stana now or Luca? How important, Jules, is it? As you said, that confidence, sticking to a plan, supporting Bling, giving him that consistency to know that the team are behind him so that when, as you said, when there's a stage that pops up that does suit him, he's got that momentum.
Yeah, I mean, that's really important, and those that know Michael's character will know that as well. So, and it's just about getting that process right. That's that formation of committing and going into the stage with a plan, with a set plan, knowing that you're backing the riders, and that when it does come to a situation which does fall more in your favour or a stage that suits you more, you don't have to change anything. You're just ready to go with exactly what you've been doing in the stages leading up to that point.
Because on the flip side, if you had gone into the team and said, you know what, guys, totally going to throw one out of left centre here. We're changing up. We're going for Luca. How much instability and potential damage could that cause? Yeah,
I think the characters we've got in this team, I know that they would commit to the role and they would do the job, but you just start to create these seeds of uncertainty within the team, within the boys and our plan going forward. And once that sort of starts to come, then the stitching starts to come undone, and next thing the garment could potentially be falling apart.
Iffy?
Now, what's the plan for today? It's a bit of a monster stage today. We were just looking at the profile, and
it's filthy.
You need hopefully a break gets up the road. Have you got anyone who's got that sort of form who could get into a break today?
Yeah, I think a little bit unfortunate for us with Andre Zeitz and Mikel Neves, a couple of our best climbers, having those offs a few days ago, which they've got pretty banged up when they hit the ground there. They're sort of coming right, so we'll see how they go today. This would normally be a cracker of a stage for Mikel Neves, but he might be right. We'll see. So we'll try and give him a chance to get up the road. Lucas Hamilton is around the mark. He's starting to make some improvements coming to the end of this first week. So we'll try and have him in there. But good day for guys like Nick Schultz, especially. Nick's had a fantastic year. Win in Tour of Czech not long ago, so we know his form's good, and can certainly be a good stage for him or a good opportunity for him if he gets up the road.
Good stuff, mate. Hey, what's the region like? What's the local delicacies you've been experiencing at the moment?
Actually, it's a bit of a shame today because we're actually starting down near Murcia. We're starting in Alejandro Valverde's hometown today. So I think this stage was really set up for him and and I think that him having to pull out of the race a couple of days ago, his emotional sort of outburst or his disappointment there was really much more intensified, because he knew in 2 days' time he was supposed to be starting in his hometown. So that's a bit of a bummer, but not much down here. There's a few tomatoes down here. Real was heading into some high country and down in Andalusia, so it's going to be pretty arid out there today. A lot of desert type terrain. So unless you like cactus, not much.
Keep the fluids up. Hey, last fan question before we let you go, mate. Troy Collett wants to know: do the mechanics change much on the bike for a day like this?
No, not a whole lot. Obviously, we've got to change the gearing specifically for the climb. So the guys will have gone through. We've got some pretty steep climbs. That first Cat 1 climb up about 100k there has got some sections in it of around 15% in the middle. So they'll need to make the boys need to make sure that their gearings are pretty much on point. There with changing chain and sprockets of that. But pretty much. That's about all that they do change. Yeah.
And last one for me, mate. What was the key messaging to the boys today for stage 9?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have any big favourites for today. So but we've got duty and obligation to represent our sponsors, to represent Jerry. So we need to get out there and a bit of a show of it, and have some guys in the breakaway and making sure we're represented, knowing our key stages for victory coming early next week.
Good stuff, mate. Appreciate your time on the detour, Jules. We'll check in again after the rest day, mate. Take it easy.
Thanks, bud.
All right, guys. Awesome. Thanks very much.
See you, mate. Julian Dean, great to have you on the show. Now, Iffy, we've built up our next guest. Introduction time. What can you say about Grace Brown, other than you let her down and didn't get her start, Liège? You got to take responsibility for that, mate.
Whatever. Up the heat. Right, we'll talk about that when we get on in a minute. But anyway, Grace Brown is a legend. She a local from I'm in Geelong. She comes from Camperdown, just a couple of towns up the road. Started cycling very late. She's I think she was 25 when she started racing. I remember and she's only 29 now, so she's still only a babe. But so she's come up quite quickly. She used to ride with the Holden, with the Gusto team, and rode the NRS races. But she's really come along quickly. Had a wonderful year last year, and then stepped it up again even more this year. So we'll talk to her about her wonderful year. But let's get her on.
Grace, thanks for joining the detour. Sorry for keeping you in the waiting room. We just never know when Julian Dean's going to join the show. So we're all set to talk to you. Then Jules popped up and we're like, oh, geez. But you've been very patient, and we love having you on the show.
I don't have much else going on, so I can sit here and...
Well, tell us about it, because you're going in for an operation this week.
Yeah, so I've fractured just the head of my humerus here. Basically, the tendons in my rotator cuff are pulling on that fracture, and it basically means that it's not going to heal without surgery. So it's a big disappointment. But
so that was back in that crash in the Giro, is that correct?
Yep. Yeah.
So you didn't realise it was that bad, or has it gradually gotten worse? Because you, after that, went on and did that fantastic ride at the Olympics, so in the individual time trial. So has it gotten worse, or has it just gradually been deteriorating?
Yeah. So we knew that we knew the nature of the injury, but it wasn't displaced at the first instance. But then, over time, I realised that it wasn't, didn't seem to be getting any better after some initial improvement in like the first 2 weeks. I got some review scans, and it showed that it had gotten worse. So, yeah.
So how long will you be out for? Like, what's the process after you've had the surgery?
Yep. So they have to basically anchor the fragment of bone down and tie in my tendons and everything. And because it's not like getting a plate in your collarbone, so it's not super sturdy, even after the surgery. So it'll be 4 weeks until I can get on the indoor trainer, and then probably another 2 before I can go on the road. So 6 weeks in total before I'm on the road. So it's a fair chunk of time.
Yeah. Obviously, the big news was fresh start next year. You signed with FDJ and you're leaving Team BikeExchange. What was the main reason for the switch in the end?
Basically because if you couldn't get me that start in
that's what I thought. That's what I thought.
It all came down to
I thought there's so much inconsistency here. I was promised something. There was no consistency with my race schedule, and that's it. I'll go somewhere where I know where I'm going to race. That's fair enough.
You two have been obviously texting each other, you two. But anyway.
I had no idea.
Well, it goes to show, I opened my big trap, and it goes to show how much power I've got in the Team BikeExchange team, which is
zero.
I do have an official role. I am team mascot, and I only got that job because Jerry's lovely daughter Sarah felt sorry for me that I've been overlooked for every other position, so she suggested to Jerry I should be team mascot. So that's the only reason I got the job.
And you haven't been to a race in 3 years, so the mascots. You don't serve any purpose anymore. You just make these big statements, you can't even live up to them. But no, on a serious level, I understand, when it comes to sport, a fresh start and, new environment, it must be invigorating in some regards.
Yeah, I mean, it's not without sadness that I leave BikeExchange. It's been an awesome, it's like a bit of a family, really, the team, and having Jerry support us all the way through, and especially when we're in Australia, that's a feeling that I'm not going to get anymore when we're all together with the that real Australian culture together. But in terms of my career, I saw this as an opportunity to continue my growth and get some new experiences and, step outside that comfort zone, I guess.
We've got a fan question from Jacques C. French, so I'd say an FDJ fan. Hi, Grace. Are you looking forward to riding alongside Cecile Uttrup Ludwig, and do you think riding alongside her will help you challenge the Dutch women?
Yep. It's a big motivation to try and knock the Dutch women off their sort of streak of dominating the women's world tour at the moment. So, teaming up with Cecily and also Marta Cavalli is really strong on the FDJ team. So I think, as a team, we're going to be really, in the race to challenge the domination out there and get some good wins.
Can you take us through what your experience was like in Tokyo? Obviously, Iffy talked about becoming, you were so close to getting a medal, and it was a fantastic ride, particularly in the time trial. But what was the overall experience like for the Olympics this year?
Yeah, it was a bit of a weird experience because, obviously COVID and all the rules around that. We were basically all the cyclists were in one hotel or two hotels. And we couldn't really exit the hotel other than for training. Team Australia had a policy of we had to eat in our rooms because the dining hall was getting too crowded. So it was very restricted and not the usual fun experience that you would expect from the Olympic Games. But, at the same time, I think we had to really appreciate that it was a privilege to be there, and that we could still compete given the situation, and that it was successful in the end.
Obviously, there was dramas in the road race about not having race radios because, obviously Annemiek van Vleuten didn't know there was someone up the road. What's your take on that, particularly with the race as important as the Olympics? Do you think that they should be race radios?
I think this is an unpopular opinion, but I think that they should have race radios in championship races because that's how we race the rest of the year. And also it's more of a disadvantage to the even smaller teams because if you're a nation that only has one rider in the race, then you're getting no information. You have to go back to your team car to get any updates. You can't go and talk to your teammates to discuss anything. So, yeah, I think that the radios would improve the racing. It's not about that riders can't think for themselves. It's about getting information to make the correct decisions.
And also a safety issue as well. If you need to give riders a heads up, you think everything they do should be about safety. Well, it's not safe not having radio. So that should be primary focus, you think, Johnny.
No, I agree. A lot of people have got a thing about radios because they reckon it's spoiling the racing. What's happened is that they're just so much more organised now. They're catching the break right near the end. It's nothing to do with radios. That's just the way racing is these days. So I think radios make sense. And obviously no one knew what was going on towards the end of that Olympic road race. It was a real bit of a disaster anyway.
And the time trial, overall, were you happy with your ride? Obviously, being that bloody close to a medal, but at the same time, everyone looks at the performance and everyone was super proud of what you did.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been really cool to come away with a medal around my neck, and that was only 7 seconds away. But in the end, I went out and I did my race as best I could, and I gave it everything, and I don't think I could have given it any more. So I'm proud of that, and I'm fourth best in the world, which isn't much different from third best in the world at the end of the day. So I'm not too disappointed.
I know what you're saying, but I bet you lay there that night thinking, a couple of corners, maybe I could have done, because I know I've done exactly the same thing. If I cut that corner a bit closer and maybe I could have jumped out of there.
Yeah, but also you got an injury. Yeah, but you got that injury as well. Was there a part of you going, well, geez, if I didn't have that injury, that surely made a difference as well, yeah? We're starting to pass on Iffy's nickname.
I didn't want to make any excuses.
This is why he's known as Iffy. This has turned into like an Olympics therapy session.
There's plenty of, you can always look for excuses. My power meter disconnected, so I had to pace without power. I had my injury.
Was that true about the power meter? When did that disconnect?
On the start ramp. My Garmin turned off and I turned it back on, and then as I rolled down, I was like, no power.
So normally, I mean, I don't ride, obviously, but in a time trial, power seems pretty important in terms of knowing what your efforts should be.
Yeah, I think if you're a good time trialist, you should be able to measure your effort without power, but I find it really helpful to just know if I'm in the right zone. And particularly I did the first half of the race at the same pace as Annemiek, and then I died at the end. So, potentially I went too hard in the first half, but we don't know. So, the time could have been saved if I paced differently anyway.
what I'm always fascinated with professional athletes is when you get to the end of the season, right? And you've got to, it's all like mental focus, how you get your mindset ready for next year. You're starting with a new team. Do you literally go have a chat with yourself and your support team? What do I want to achieve next year and the year after that? Take us through the process and then working backwards on how you get yourself in the best position to achieve that.
For me, it's not really been like that because each year has been an extra step up, and I've sort of achieved more than I thought I would have if I had, set out a plan exactly on that. So I've just been layering each year. So yeah, last year I took this approach. I'm just going to do a little bit more or focus a bit more on this aspect that I need to improve. And then that brings the outcomes. So yeah, that's what it's been like for me. It's not really this is what I want to achieve and working back from it as much.
I would think with the success Grace has had, you could literally say, these are the races I want to target. This is what I want to go for, and I want support around that. Am I wrong, John?
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. So you'd probably be very happy to know, Grace, that we have partnered up with the Amy Gillett Foundation, and Katie Brown's been working with us. She's a great young lady. And now we sell their new message, a new safety message. But going back a step, it was the Amy Gillett Foundation that you won that scholarship that sent you overseas quite a few years ago. So take us back to that.
Yeah, so my first world tour experience was due to the Amy Gillett Foundation. They sponsored me to be part of the Wiggle team. And yeah, I went over for half a season and raced with them before the next year signing with Mitchell and Scott. So they made this career for me possible, really. And I have a lot to thank for them, and always support the work that they do in Australia for road safety. So
now our invitation comes out. So what's happening? We are now at the Amy Gillett Great Ocean Road Grand Fondo, which is in October, end of October. What's the date? Anyway, I think Dan's got that. But we've got a group. The Detour Desperados, and we're all going to ride it. Dan's riding it on an e-bike, but he's riding it.
Still counts.
Come on, Dan.
No. I've got to be realistic, Grace.
You've got time to train for it, though.
All right. Back in Australia, you could join us.
Well, we did have a question. We did have a question about that from Troy again. He said, "Is Grace staying in Europe over the Aussie summer? Are you going to come back, or are you going to stay in Europe?"
My plan is to come back. It's quite hard to get back to Australia, but that's the plan at the moment. And I realise that it's looking pretty grim in Victoria at the moment, but.
We'll be right.
My husband's there, so I've left him alone for long enough, and I need to get back to him.
Well, I was going to say, is Elliot back in Australia? Is he?
Yeah, he's in lockdown in Melbourne at the moment, and he's not loving it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a bit like that. Don't worry, we'll knock it on the head. Give us a couple of weeks. We've got the curfew. We'll be fine.
Well, your shoulder should be right, so you should be able to handle my attacks up the back of the Forest Road big climb. So I reckon you'll be right.
And we're getting custom kit made. Now, when you look at cycling kit, what are the sort of designs and colours that you really like to wear if you could pick anything?
I really like the sort of old school classic jerseys from the 90s.
Yeah, simple. Yeah.
Yeah, I reckon we need a resurgence of that style.
Okay, so we're going
I
old
think
retro
I think
style.
this is going. I think this is going to go all safety, and I think the Amy Gillett Foundation is working with our mate Vaughan on the design. So we'll
Probably
you
bright.
keep
can
in
get
the
some
loop.
bright colours in there.
Right.
Yeah, we are going to go bright colours, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to
Now,
go all out.
go back because we did speak to you just after you'd won the Penna, the Bruges de Penna, but you did also did a fantastic ride, third in Ronde van Vlaanderen. Tell us about that, because that's a huge classic. That was a great ride.
Yeah, that was probably my favourite race of the season. I don't know. It's just epic. Like, even without all the spectators, there's just this feeling around the Flanders race that's really special, and those iconic cobble climbs, and just going up the Quamont right on the limit, and racing there is awesome. So,
If there was one race you could win, what race would that be? If you could pick one. Flanders?
Yeah, I say Flanders, but it's hard to know with Paris-Roubaix since I haven't raced it yet. But just that iconic finish in the Velodrome would be insane.
Well, how big was the announcement the Tour de France made about the women's Tour de France? That's kicking off next year. How much buzz did that give among the women's peloton?
Yeah, everyone's very excited for that, and I don't think there's a single rider in the peloton that doesn't want to be on the start line there. So it's going to be huge, and just all the years is you tell people that you're a professional cyclist, and they're like, "Oh, do you race the Tour de France then?" It's like, well, nah. Because there's no women's Tour de France, but now we can. So it'll make a lot more sense to the rest of the public.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, the women's version of the Tour de France this year was, of course, one day with the La Course, but you did a good ride that day. I think you were fifth, weren't you, in La Course?
Yeah, yep. I was trying to race a little bit differently that day. But yeah, I was pretty happy with the result in the end. I think the sprint went a bit late for me. I like a long sprint, but it was a fun race, a good finish.
Should have just hit him with 10K to go. Just held him.
Yeah, I wanted to not use my same tactic of going for a long range attack.
Don't want to be a one-trick pony. Just keep mixing up. Keep mixing it up. Last couple of questions from the fans. Was the Olympic road race a completely unique and foreign environment compared to all the infrastructure and support in European races? That's from Tom Maloney.
Yeah, definitely. We have so many resources racing in Europe. There's not, it's super easy with the staff and the equipment. But over in Tokyo at the Olympics, you sort of back down to the bare minimum, driving around in a sort of people mover van, and you've got all your bikes sort of squished in, and we have bare bones staff, so it's not quite the same experience as the riding with the pro teams over in Europe. But yeah, still it's one of the top events in the world. So
is the one thing that disappoints you the most about obviously the Tokyo experience? Traditionally, athletes talk about being in the village and being able to meet other athletes from other countries. Is that the experience that you feel that you've been robbed of the most?
Yeah, even I think this year, if we'd been in the athlete village, we would have, been able to meet and hang out with the other Australian athletes from other sports. But we were literally just with the cyclists, and we meet people from other nations, but they're the same riders that we've competed against all year. So it's not, it doesn't feel anything special necessarily. The only difference was that it was all the men and women in the one hotel. So yeah, we got to see the guys, which is a little bit new.
Does that spur you on, given that Paris is only 3 years away, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, things will be different and you would be able to mingle in the village?
Yeah, it gives that extra little bit of motivation to get the real Olympic experience. Hang on and do Paris as well.
Good stuff. Iffy, and then before we wrap up the show.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say my memory's working well, but I remember going to the Olympics a long time ago, slightly before you were born, not slightly, before both of you were born. But
that's right.
It was, just to be there in the village, to march in the opening ceremony was also very, very special. So you'll get the chance. It's only 3 years, Grace. But I just want to say thanks heaps.
That's only double my professional career to
Exactly.
Well, you come this far in that short amount of time. Imagine what you'll be achieving in 3 years. Wow.
I do have a quick question for you. You might know the answer to this. I just talked to someone before, and Sarah Giganti, as we know, is going to Movie Star. Obviously, so she'll be working with your nemesis, Annemiek. But she's been back in hospital. Do you know what happened with Sarah that put her back in hospital?
I probably can't give her medical details, but yeah,
he asks good questions on this show. Don't worry. He loves the curly ones. Give me her medical details right now.
Shut up, Dan.
Another time, John.
Shut up, Dan.
They haven't arrived at a conclusive diagnosis of what her condition is, but yeah, she's in a stable position now and obviously out of hospital, so I think she'll be fine. But it might be a while before she can do a full training load again.
Okay.
Oh, fingers crossed she's on the mend.
Yeah.
Jason wants to know predictions for tonight, guys. We've got stage number 9 of the Tour of Spain. Iffy, who do you think is going to win?
Look, I think it'll be a breakaway day. It's a monster of a day, but I think they'll catch them on the final climb. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to go for Roglic to win the stage.
Grace, you want to throw a pick out there for Chook Lotto?
I'll go with Bernal.
Nice.
It's what we like.
Educated pick. I'll back you in. I think Bernal's
I think Yates is going better than Bernal.
I was just going to say Adam Yates possibly as well. So you beat me to it. But hey, all the best, Grace. We have loved following your career so far, and no doubt bigger and better things with FDJ next year. Just make sure, one piece of advice, you've got enough runs on the board, go in on the front foot and say, this is what I want to race, this is what I want to focus on, because then you don't have to rely on people like Iffy to try and get your races that you need to be racing and put in good words. You get on the front foot from the start and you'll be laughing. Don't worry about that.
You know you're in a tough position when you're relying on Iffy.
Oh, yeah. You're
Bang.
As we always say, youtube.com/Detour Podcast. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks for joining us, Grace. Thanks, Julian Dean. Thanks, Iffy. And, we'll see you again tomorrow night, 6:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Ciao for now.
Right, see you, Grace. Thanks, Liz.
Good on you. Take it easy. Bye.
This is the winning ride